Today's lesson is about additive using clay. One of the methods that you need to know when it comes to adding clay to another piece of clay is you must score. So I'm going to be showing you with a few designs that I started before class. I want to be able to scratch the surface, and then I'm adding slip to join the two pieces together. So in my tile that I have here, let me zoom in a little better. What I have here is I've started creating little designs out of clay. I have a nice flat slab of clay currently. And the misconception when I have new students is that I can very easily create a little design with my hands. And when I create that design, it sure seems to stick real well if I just push it together. That's going to be the number one way your pieces are going to fall apart. So even though I have made these nice little pieces and they're sticking to the clay, I have to actually join the pieces together. Just like if I wanted to join two pieces of paper together, I have to use a glue, right? Or it's not going to stick. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to score the surface. I'm using what's called a needle tool. So the idea is that I am roughing up that surface. I also have my slip here, which is more or less going to be called your ceramic glue. So when you're using a ceramic glue, or in other words, slip, what you're doing is you're giving it not only that rough surface to join pieces together, but acting like that little glue that you would use if you were using paper. So I just put a little bit on my tiny piece, and now I'm going to push it down just a bit onto my tile. So it's important to do this, even though I guarantee you will try to stick this to your clay, and it's going to look like it sticks. And maybe you did an experiment and you decided, I want to see if this is true. Miss Beer tells me I have to use this slip and score method, but I really think that I can go ahead and join my pieces without slip and scoring. Well, the pieces most likely are going to fall right off after it's gone through the kiln. And that's going to cause, a whole lot of frustration because this does take a lot of time. All right, so now you have seen my slip and score method. I used a needle tool. I added my wet clay, which serves as my ceramic glue, and then I joined the pieces together. I give it a little bit of a wiggle to get it to stay on that tile. Now I'm going to show you a little bit more about ways to make texture. Now for that first little piece, I actually started off with this one right here, where it looks a little bit like a bowl. Now, there's millions and millions of ways that you can create texture. The idea for you guys is to start with using your hands. I don't necessarily want to introduce to you too many tools at this time. What I want you to be able to do is use your hands and create different textures that are going to, make an interesting design. So what I'm going to do is I started off with a ball, and this is just one example. And I kind of used my fingers to indent it. I'm also going to smooth it out. That's another really important thing to remember when it comes to ceramics. You don't want little crumbles, or here, watch what I do when I rub my fingers together. See these crumbles here? I often see students who have artwork or ceramic pieces that have little crumbles all over it. That's not necessarily good craftsmanship. Good craftsmanship would be smoothing out those little crumbles. Sometimes when your clay is real wet, it doesn't want to let you to get rid of those little crumbles. Down the road, you may be able to smooth it out once your clay has had a little bit of time to firm up a bit. And then I take a wet paintbrush, and I smooth that out. So again, I'm talking about a term that you're going to hear me say again and again in this class, and that is smoothing your clay out. Good craftsmanship. Clean up that clay. You want to, it's as if you were to relate it to drawing. If I'm drawing and I sort of erase a little bit, but not all the way, can I still see the mark? Absolutely. Well, this is kind of similar. You want to clean it up all the way, and that also means smoothing it out. Okay, so when you are using your clay, you're going to find that, wow, my fingers might be sticking to the pieces a whole bunch. That will eventually get better and better as your clay hardens just a little bit. So again, I'm smoothing out my piece, and then watch, I'm going to flip it over because I'm ready to add it to my tile. You're making this tile look three-dimensional, taking a flat surface and giving body to it. Now, this design that I'm creating here, I have 3 different heights. When I hold it up at the end of the demonstration, you'll get to see all of those different heights. So now what I'm doing is I've scratched the surface. We also call that scoring. And now I'm taking my finger in my slip, and I am just dabbing some of that slip onto both areas, the tile and the piece that I am joining. And now I'm going to push that onto my clay. Yes, it's very possible that you're going to have to go back and smooth it out. That's part of what you're learning to do with ceramics. Good craftsmanship involves, going in and cleaning up those little designs that you make and make them look the way you want them to look. Crumbles on your clay is not desirable. It's not what we're looking for. We're looking for nice, cleaned, smoothed out surfaces that create a design. Let me zoom in just a little bit more, and I'm going to lift up my tile. Now, I have a slippery surface here, so I'm going to use this scraper just to kind of help get it off the surface if it's sticky. Now, I'm going to turn this to the side so you can see. I have multiple different heights here, okay? So the idea is that you are creating a design, taking a flat surface and giving body to it. Right now, it needs some cleaning up, but this is an excellent start. Now I'm going to set this aside and do another design on a different tile to give you a variety of ways that you can work with using clay to create textures. Now, you started with a clump of clay, right? We're not working with really big pieces. And what I'm doing is I'm starting to create kind of a wave or a ripple, okay? The entire tile is going to have waves of clay that kind of look like ripples in the water. So watch what I'm doing. I'm going to start with kind of a coil. I rolled it between my hands to make it nice and long. And now I'm going to set it over here on my canvas. Let me move this closer. So when I set this on my canvas, the reason I have canvas instead of this surface, this is a slick surface and my clay will stick to it. Now, if you want to use canvas under your clay, I can pick it up and adjust it very easily. Now, one of the things that I liked about the design that we saw in a different presentation was the ripples or the waves in the clay on that tile. And I just loved the movement that I saw there. So what I'm doing here, let me zoom in so you can see a little bit better, is I am curving that what was a bit of a coil, kind of looked like a snake or a worm. And now I am giving it a little bit of a curve, and I'm also going to start giving it a point at the top. So many different things that you can do with your hands. You need to be able to smooth out that clay, and that takes a little bit of time to get used to. You're going to see little cracks and things form in there. You can always fix it. If it starts to get too dry, get a spray bottle of water and lightly mist the surface of your clay. So right now what I'm doing is kind of building up this peak or this nice little area on here where it looks like a wave, that little peak of a wave as it's starting to turn over like in the ocean. And again, right now, my clay's kind of, I see crumbles in there. I'm going to have to clean that up later on. Those little crumbles and those little cracks, they may get frustrating when your clay is wet like it is right now. That's something that's going to become easier the more you're working with your clay. All right, so now I'm going to zoom back out and let's add that to my tile. I have one that's already created. It's a little bit shorter than that first one. Again, you're working with multiple different heights, okay? So right now, it's very easy to say, oh, I'm just going to push this down and it will stick. Well, I've already given you a lot of good information. All you have to do is scratch that surface. Scratch the surface you're joining to. Some people like to use a fork. It kind of makes the job a little bit easier, but I happen to have a needle tool handy, and it does make the job a little bit easier to have a fork though, because it has a lot more prongs. Okay, so what I'm doing is making sure that I scratch all of those surfaces that are going to be joined together. Again, scratch and slip. Adding with my finger some of that slip or your ceramic glue. I'm going to add a little to my tile. And now when I join these pieces, I'm going to give it a little bit of a wiggle. And now I'm going to smooth it out on here. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little better. I'm going to smooth it out on that surface. So as I'm smoothing it, this is called good craftsmanship, okay? I could easily just leave it just so, where you can see my scratch marks, you can see some lumps, you see where those two pieces of clay were joined, and that just doesn't look as nice. If it makes sense and you are able to get your finger into that spot, you can smooth it out. I do have other tools that I'm going to introduce to you. For today, I'd like you to be able to use just the needle tool and your hands. When it comes to tools, believe me, I have lots available that are going to help make this easier for you. But you must learn to start with your hands. All right, so now I'm just working to smooth this out, and then we'll end the demonstration with a good basics of how to add two pieces of clay together. Now look how smooth that is. Now that looks nice. Keep that in mind. You want to have good craftsmanship. And especially as a beginner with working with clay, it's important that you learn those basic techniques and not, get lazy right from the beginning. Cleaning up that piece and really making it look the way you want it to look. It doesn't happen fast. That I can tell you when it comes to hand building with clay, it is not a fast art. If you get impatient and you really like instant gratification or quick things that happen fast, this is really not, the way that ceramic works. On the back piece of this clay, I'm just going to lift this up a little bit. Okay, see that joint in the back? The joint where this piece right here joins the tile? Sometimes I like to take a tool, such as a needle tool, and I'm going to blend that joint just a bit. Your entire tile is going to be covered in designs. Right from the beginning, it's helpful to try to clean it up, but some of these things you aren't going to see. So I'm going to try and give you the guidance along the way, and then tomorrow you're going to have more tools added to your palette of things to use to create the best textures you can.